So let me tell you a story. I was stuck in an airport, wasting time, sitting at a bar. Yes, your pastor was at a bar, when a woman from New York sat down next to me, and eventually she asked that dreaded question as a pastor, "What do you do?" I told her I was a pastor, and within minutes she was drilling me. How could you subscribe to a belief system that does more harm than good in our world? Think about it. She went on and on. She said the Crusades, the Inquisition, the church's lack of response to Nazism, the history of discrimination against women, financial scandals, sex abuse scandals, homophobia, anti-Semitism, racial segregation, politicians' use of Christianity for political gain. She even talked about the way she'd been hurt personally by Christians in her life. She went on. And here's the problem with her argument. I couldn't argue with her. I couldn't argue with her because she was right. She wasn't making any of this up. As your pastor, we Christians, like everyone else, we have had our blind spots through history. And sometimes I wonder if Christians of the past could be as misguided as they appear to us today. I wonder what our blind spots are. 200 years from now, what will people say about me, about us, about how we've behaved as Christians? I think this is what Jesus is getting at in our reading for today. We're looking at Matthew chapter 7. And remember, the author of Matthew is writing to the church. He's giving instruction to the church on how to best be the church. And in verse 11, Jesus says some words that would have been jarring to those first followers, I imagine. He says, "If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him?" I'm sure they said, "Wait a second, what did he just say? Did he just call us evil?" Gang, Jesus knew what you and I know. We are far from perfect. And he suggests again and again that Christians, we should be the best at admitting something, at admitting when we have fallen short. In fact, he gives us a great image for this, an image from his childhood. Jesus grew up the son of a carpenter, and so he says in verse 4, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye?" As a kid helping his dad in the shop, I'm guessing Jesus got lots of specks of dust in his eye. And he knew that when you get a speck of dust in your eye, it feels like a log. Jesus goes on. He says, "How can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." What's Jesus getting at? My wrongdoing, he says, the wrongdoings of any follower of Jesus ought to feel like a log, whereas the wrong of your neighbor should feel like just a speck. We should be more concerned about our wrongdoing than those across the street, than others. So, what do I say to that woman what did I say to her, this woman I was sitting with at the airport? It was clear she had had a bad encounter with Christianity, an encounter with Christians who don't act so Christian. Likely, they subscribe to a version of Christianity I wouldn't have liked either. And so I simply said to her, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for how people who consider themselves Christian have hurt you and hurt others. I'm sorry, Christianity, it's not Christianity unless it feels like love. I'm sorry you had that experience." Gang, sometimes we have to admit the speck in our own eye, because to others, it's a log.